of Martha McSally. He right now has 144,000 votes more at 52.6%, and Martha McSally at 47.4%. We're still waiting for votes to come in there. And there are two races in Georgia. The first that we'll talk about is incumbent Republican David Perdue, who is 133,000 votes ahead at 50.2%. Jon Ossoff, the Democratic challenger, at 47.5%. That 50% is key to look at, because that is the only way that anybody can win in Georgia, if they get at least 50% without a runoff. And speaking of runoffs, let's look at the special election. This is going to a runoff. The Democrat Raphael Warnock is going to go up against Kelly Loeffler. That runoff is going to happen January 5th of next year. So let's look at some of the other tight races that we have yet to call right now. North Carolina, incumbent Republican Thom Tillis is ahead. He is 96,000 votes ahead at 48.7%. The Democratic challenger Cal Cunningham at 46.9%. 94% of the estimated vote in there. And in Maine, the Republican incumbent Susan Collins had what many saw as the fight of her life. She is ahead by our count 52,000 votes at 50.3%. Sarah Gideon at 43.0%. Sarah Gideon has conceded that race. We have yet to call it. We're waiting for more votes to come in. In Alaska, Dan Sullivan, the incumbent Republican, has a significant lead. He's ahead by 53,000 votes, 62.9%, and the Democrat is trailing pretty significantly. And then let's look one more time, Wolf, at the balance of power right now. Democrats have 47 seats. Republicans have 47 seats. 6 seats remain. And Wolf, this has been a heartbreak for a lot of Democrats, because they saw this as a perfect opportunity to take back the Senate. They had a lot of Republicans that they were trying to beat who were very vulnerable. And right now, it is a very, very tough slog for them to actually achieve that goal. Well,
we'll continue to watch it with you, Dana. Thanks very much. Let's get right back to the presidential contest, John. Under 40,000 vote lead now in Georgia for the president, 16 electoral votes in Georgia. Let's check in with Gary Tuchman first. I want to see the latest developments that are unfolding there. I know we're anticipating a lot more numbers about to be released.
Wolf, Georgia has been a reliably red state for a long time. The last time it picked a Democrat for president was 28 years ago with Bill Clinton. So that's why these numbers are eye-opening. You just said it yourself, 39,000 now separates Donald Trump from second place Joe Biden. But here's the number that really matters at this moment. The Republican Secretary of State here in the state of Georgia says there are still 122,535 outstanding votes. And behind us are some of them. This is Atlanta, Georgia, Fulton County, the largest county in the state of Atlanta. These are the processors and the scanners looking at the absentee ballots that arrived by the deadline at 7 o'clock last night. They will count a total of 142,000 when it's all over. They still, though, have 36,000 just in this county that will be posted tonight. That's the plan. By around midnight or shortly after midnight, they plan to post 36,000 additional votes. These processors and scanners send these ballots to counters in another room. If there's any problem with the counters, they're looked at by adjudicators. The adjudicators are a 2-person team, 1 Republican to 1 Democrat, to make sure the intent of the person who filled it out is clear. If they disagree, then a 3rd neutral person looks at it. In addition to Fulton County, there's the nearby county of Gwinnett, which is the 2nd largest county in Georgia. They still have 4,400 votes to count. And then there's DeKalb, which is the 4th largest, and they still have 7,500 votes to count. They all plan to finish their counting tonight. We can tell you it's a very tense and interesting scenario when you're in this room with these people. These folks know they're doing really important work. It looks like a beehive. They never stop working, but we are told as long as we've been here, I mean, they just never stop moving is what I'm saying. They're also never stop working. But we've been told by the election director here that everything is being done really honorably. He wants to make that very clear. The Trump campaign has filed a lawsuit saying that in one county here in Georgia, that they spotted 53 absentee ballots that came after the 7 o'clock deadline, put on the pile of absentee ballots to be counted. That's their allegation. The election director here in the largest county, Fulton County, says that it's absolutely not allowed, that when 7 o'clock came last night, the ballot boxes were taken away. No mail was accepted today. Every ballot on these people's desks came before 7 o'clock. One more thing I want to mention to you, Wolf. Lots of counties in the state are counting absentee ballots, and not just the few I mentioned. In the Atlanta area, we're talking about 60,000 total ballots in the Atlanta metropolitan area. But we told you it's a total of 122, so that's another 62,000. One of them is in a Republican county. I mispronounced it earlier. For the record, I want to say correctly, it's Houston County, not Houston County. There's also a Houston Street in New York City, and there's a Houston, Texas. We always want to get our Houstons and Houstons right. Well,
and Gary, just to be clear, those 60,000 ballots in the metro Atlanta area, those are all mail-in ballots, right?
These are all mail-in absentee ballots, which is the way people have voted for a long time, which is the way members of our military vote. It's an accepted way to do it. Each state has different rules when the absentee ballots can arrive. For example, I spent the election in Ohio. Ohio allows absentee ballots, as long as they were postmarked by Monday, to arrive 10 days after the election on the 13th. Here in Georgia, the rule is they had to arrive by 7 o'clock last night.
All right, Gary, we'll stay in close touch with you. Thank you very much. So, John, Trump is ahead right now by less than 40,000 votes in Georgia. 122,525 ballots are outstanding in the whole state. But in the metro Atlanta area, there's a significant number he was just talking about right there.
He said half of them, roughly half of them, are right there in metro Atlanta, and you see the blue star. I want you to remember this number, 122,000 left, right? So again, I'm going to blank this out for a minute. I want to keep metro Atlanta circled. Just want to show you something here. So you think, okay, 122,000 left. You know, that's a narrow lead, just shy of 40,000. You think you can't make that up. I just want to make a point here. At midnight last night, forgive me for turning my back, I'm left-handed. At midnight last night, that was Donald Trump's lead
in the state of
Georgia. 372,000 votes. It is 39,800 votes right now. So that is the momentum. That is what has happened as they're counting these ballots overnight and throughout the day today. So that was your number at midnight. That is your number now. You're nervous in the Trump campaign headquarters and at Biden headquarters. You're saying, count those votes, please. We want to see them. So let's blank it out and see where we go. Gary standing in Fulton County. Again, 93%. More ballots to be counted. Gary says we should get those later tonight. We know Joe Biden is, in the public record, is winning 72%. We also know from the ballots counted today, that's actually a little bit higher. The votes for Joe Biden, the percentage is a little bit higher today. So if you're trying to make up that gap, that's what you need to do. Post a big number. Gary mentioned more ballots out in DeKalb County. Look at here. Joe Biden is getting more than 80% of the vote there. If you're going to catch up, you have to win a disproportionate number of the votes. Simple math there. But we know that's happening. We have more coming in Gwinnett County. This one, so a little closer, 58-43. Joe Biden needs to win, again, overwhelming majority of those votes. We'll see as they count them right here. But if you pull this back out, you see this blue star, Atlanta and the suburbs. That's going to most likely determine the outcome of this race as they continue to count them. But as Gary noted, he mentioned Houston. That's down here. All right, we'll count the votes there. They're up to 95% right now, so that means you got a couple thousand left probably. It could come in the president's way. He's winning the county right now. They could be Democrats who mailed in their ballots. We know from pre-election polling, Democrats said COVID safety measures, many of them preferred to mail them in. We'll see. That's why we count them. And we know earlier, Gary mentioned Chatham. This is one of the places where the Trump campaign, the state Republican Party, are in a fight with the Democrat, with the counters here, with the county here. We'll see. They can litigate
electoral votes, but I would rather be Biden than Trump at this point in terms of where the outstanding votes are.
Yeah, there are a lot of holes in the president's wall right now that he has to patch up. And Georgia is a really big problem for him. I think the campaign knows that, which is probably one of the reasons we saw that lawsuit come through. But as Jim said, if the president loses Georgia and either Arizona or Nevada, this is over. It's as simple as that. They understand that in Trump campaign headquarters. And at this point, though, like with all of these states, there's not much they can do. The votes are coming in, and they're coming in from heavily Democratic parts of the states. Mm-hmm. And so it's creating a real problem for them. We just have to wait and see what happens, but it's not looking great.
I remember, Dana, I said yesterday that the Biden people were telling me that the outstanding states were, they thought, going to be like Virginia, which was a lot of Trump vote, but they didn't. The urban centers and the suburban centers reported their votes late. Richmond, Virginia, and then Fairfax County, Virginia. And then Biden won, and they said that was going to happen with Wisconsin. It did. They said that was going to happen with Michigan. It did. And now we're waiting to see if it happens elsewhere.
And we're going to know really soon. I mean, this all has been exciting and certainly angst-provoking for a lot of people. But if you look now, it's 8:19 p.m. Eastern, and according to Kyung La, a reporter in Arizona, we are going to maybe get a big tranche of votes that are outstanding that could give us a sense of how big of a gap Joe Biden has, or how much of a lead he has, or whether it is going to shrink. And we really are on the precipice, potentially, of knowing who the next president of the United States is. And the fact that we're talking about it, and it's Arizona, is pretty remarkable. We don't know if it's going to happen, but just the fact that that is a potential pivot point for a president of the United States who is a Democrat just shows the fact that demographics are changing in many states, and number one is Arizona.
And you know what? Arizona is also their best shot right now, really. I mean, if you really look at what's going on in Arizona, the reason they've been expressing so much confidence about Arizona is because the state is not, Maricopa County is not quite as polarized as, say, Atlanta and the metro areas around Atlanta. So they feel like they might get a more favorable split of those votes coming in, but that's not saying a whole lot. I mean, they have a fair amount of ground to make up in that state, and it really shows how big of a problem that they have, that Arizona is their best shot, and it's not a really good situation that they're facing right now. That state is, right now, Joe Biden has a pretty comfortable lead for Arizona, and if he's able to hold on to it, it blocks Donald Trump's path to the White House.
So much of the Trump era has been as if it was conceived in a writer's room in Hollywood. And the idea that his advisors have been begging him for years to stop attacking and insulting one of Arizona's favorite son, Senator John McCain, who he attacked and said he wasn't a real hero, I like people who weren't captured, et cetera, and just